There were times throughout the ministry of Jesus that no matter what he did, no matter what he said, no matter what miracles he performed, there were just some folks that couldn't see what was right in front of them. And they really missed the point. They missed the forest for the trees, as we sometimes say. And I think that's really the case in Luke chapter 6 when we see some of the occasions where some of the Jews got so hooked on their understanding or their misguided understanding of the Sabbath day that they just totally missed the point of what Jesus was saying and doing right in front of them. We see a couple of these instances happen in Luke chapter 6, beginning in verse 1, that it happened on the second Sabbath after the first, that Jesus went through the grain fields, and his disciples plucked the heads of grain and ate them, rubbing them in their hands. Okay? But some of the Pharisees said to them, must have seen them do that, and they say, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" Well, Jesus had an answer, really a test in turn for them. Jesus answered them and said, "Have you not even read this?" Which, man, that's a challenge. Talking to Pharisees who claim to know the law, to know the history, so on and so forth. And Jesus says, "Have you not even read? Have you not read this? What did David do when he was hungry? That David and those who were with him, that he went into the house of God, took and ate the showbread, and also gave some to those with him, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat. And Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath." Jesus tried to get them to think outside of their restricted box of their really stubborn failure to understand Jesus and what Jesus was doing and their strict rules they had come up with. Sure, we know the Sabbath day. We know that no work was to be done on the Sabbath day. Jesus was not teaching here that they were not to keep the Sabbath. But Jesus is here with them. He says, think of David and what David did and the provisions that God made for him. And that statement when Jesus says the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath, Jesus was saying to them, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. These disciples are with me. And so Jesus was trying to get them to understand. On another occasion, verse 6, that it happened on another Sabbath day, that Jesus entered the synagogue and was teaching. And a man was there whose right hand was withered. So the scribes and Pharisees watched Jesus closely. Notice this, whether he would heal on the Sabbath day, that they might find an accusation against him. Really? This always baffles me that here they are, and they know Jesus can heal, and they're sitting there watching to see if Jesus will heal somebody on the Sabbath day. And I'm thinking, I would just be, if I didn't know, I'd be sitting there waiting to see if he could heal. And if I knew he could heal, I would be amazed at that, I would hope. But here they are, even thinking it was possible, knowing it was possible for Jesus to heal somebody. But they were so full of jealousy and hate and disbelief that they couldn't see the miracle that was going to be in front of them. They just wanted to see if Jesus would do it on the Sabbath day. But Jesus knew their thoughts and said to the man who had the withered hand, "Arise and stand here." And so the man stood up. Jesus said to them, the scribes and Pharisees, "I will ask you one thing." See how Jesus again turns it back on them, tests them. He says, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil? To save life or to destroy?" And when Jesus had looked around at them all, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he did. And his hand was restored as whole as the other. Jesus just healed this man who had a withered hand. A man who had a useless hand. A man, I don't know how long, maybe since birth, I don't know. For some time, whatever that was, a man who couldn't use his hand, had a withered hand. And Jesus simply said, "Stretch out your hand." And the man was completely healed and restored. Jesus healed this man. What an amazing miracle, the power of God, a testimony to who Jesus is. But yet, notice verse 11. But the scribes and Pharisees were filled with rage and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus. Instead of saying, "Wow, did you see what he did? Did you see the miracle? Who can this be that even heals people of their withered hands?" Instead, they were so full of hate and jealousy, they got together and talked about how they might get rid of Jesus. Talk about missing the point. They were blinded by their evil. They were blinded by their jealousy, their hatred, whatever you want to fill in the blank. Their disbelief, their unwillingness to see who was right in front of them and what he was doing and what he was teaching. They really missed the point. And we got to make sure, it's easy for me to sit here, for any of us to read these passages and shake our head and wag our heads and laugh and make fun of and even get frustrated and angry at the scribes and Pharisees and others. But I wonder, and I have to ask myself, what about me? Do I ever miss something that Jesus has said or done because of my own maybe stubbornness or my own lack of attention? Do I ever miss sometimes the forest for the trees? Do I ever get so stuck in my ways or my thinking or stuck in my own traditions or something to where maybe I'm missing the point in certain things? So we all have to be careful that we are not blinded by our own prejudices, our own wants, our own desires, and to make sure that we are seeing clearly, seeing Jesus, and listening to what he is truly teaching, and to follow him. Let's make sure we are not missing the point. God bless.